Hi everybody, today we're going to be interviewing Shahin Ali, who has a PhD in chemical engineering from MIT. Shahin is an expert in the area of customer relationship management with over 12 years of progressive strategic management and marketing experience. He's worked with many major entertainment broadcasting and marketing mobile technology companies. His approach to developing and maintaining customer relationships focuses on deeply integrating operations in the company. And today we're going to be interviewing him about how we can take use of all the new data that's surrounding us, from social media to the web, and use this for customer acquisition and retention. I hope you enjoy the video. First of all, what sort of data within enterprises is underutilized that can help customer acquisition and retention models?
Right. Well, it really depends on the scale and size of the company. So, small companies may not have a lot of data. Say you're a startup just launching, you may need to go and look at, say, web data or advertising data or any other of the public sources of data to, begin thinking about your acquisition strategy. For more established companies, they have a wealth of data. So customer service data is one that I find that companies don't really leverage enough. And the key there is to make sure that you have set up your customer service or work with your customer service team so that the call dispositions and the information is in the right form for you to make use of it. So that's one big area that I think especially larger companies don't take full advantage of.
Right.
Obviously there's a whole wealth of new data sources out there, mobile data, social data, and companies are just getting on board with this stuff, and they really haven't started focusing on how to leverage that data. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity, especially now as people's, I think, privacy concerns are sort of going down, especially with maybe younger generations. They actually appreciate it when a company understands their needs, their wants, and they see it as saving them time. So companies can leverage that new attitude to mine the data, obviously doing it in a respectful way, such that you're always letting the customer know what you're doing with the data, and you're not like social security numbers or that kind of stuff aside. But behavioral data is really the key. A lot of people try to make sense out of demographic data, age, income, and that's a nice starting point, but that was, back in the 90s, that's what you used. Now, we have the opportunity to track what customers are actually doing, what potential customers are actually doing, and their behavior, interaction with ads, interaction with your website, interaction with your company and with your products, really allows you to understand their needs, their desires, their expectations, and then you can leverage all those data sources to get a better picture of your customer, take it right back into your product development if you even need to, or just, develop marketing campaigns around it and targeting of customers, making sure you're bringing on the customers that you want to bring on at your company.
Great. And so, more specifically, what kind of new data is out there that companies can actually go retrieve and collect?
Right. So I think there's a lot of social media data. So what fans are saying, say on Facebook or now Google Plus, are they mentioning your company? Did they friend your page? And it's sort of a double-edged sword, because you may have people that may not even be customers being very vocal about your products. So you have to find a way to leverage that data, maybe incorporate it with other data sources, and find out what's the true influence score, and how does that go into a so-called customer value. A lot of companies originally looked at customer value as how much is somebody spending with us, how frequently, and they assign a customer some kind of customer value. Well, that model now needs to evolve, so that piece of it is very important. But there's also potentially now this influencer element, and how do you value that? How do you incorporate that in? And the influencer may be somebody who buys with you occasionally, but has a large network of friends, posts frequently on your website, and has a lot to say. So how do you make sense of that? And I think there's a lot of cool things happening now. There's companies that are working in text mining. So you can really begin to automate the process of reading Facebook posts posts or reading social media posts and understanding what the customer's concerns are, if they have any concerns, or what the pros are, and again, learning from that information and scoring either the customers or scoring your products and services, and understanding how can you make your product better, how can you make your customer experience better, and how can you manage the customer's expectations. So a lot of companies are doing great things by having teams of people focus on answering Facebook concerns or Twitter concerns right away. But I think that doesn't always end up in some sort of repository of information. So these new text mining tools, there's companies that are coming out of MIT that mine text and give you insights based on what your customers are actually saying, and they're using that information. So it's really a great time in the data space, but it's also a challenging time because it can feel overwhelming.
Definitely. And so what are the opportunities and challenges with this growth of data around this?
Yeah, so the opportunity is that you get a much better understanding of each customer down to customer level. Over the years, a lot of companies have tried to segment customers. It works really good, especially for large marketing campaigns. But as we get more and more data, as people are willing to share more data, and as people are leaving sort of their footprint all over the web, all over the social media, you can really start learning about the true one-to-one relationship. So that's a huge opportunity. If you can find ways to efficiently and accurately communicate with your customers or potential customers, it could be for acquisition as well, that has a huge potential benefit to keeping and establishing a great relationship with your customers. Now the challenge is the amount of data. How do you do exactly what I said? How can you do it efficiently and accurately? Nothing turns off a customer more when they see that it's a form letter, or see that it's some computer generated something or other that isn't really in line with what their expectations are. So I think those are the biggest challenges.
Great. And how has the analysis of these data sources helped in customer acquisition and retention?
Well, I think my experience is a lot around customer service data. So I was working for a large cell phone company, and we went in and mined the customer service data, and we found a tremendous wealth of data. I should take a step back. Initially, we had to work with the customer service team to make sure that all the dispositions and the way the data was captured was in a usable format. Once we did that, we were able to mine that data and learn a lot about what customers were complaining about with our products or what they really liked. And that allowed us to go even back to the product team and work with them to improve some of the products, and work with the marketing team saying, hey, this is what customers are talking about. This is what they're telling our customer service representatives. Now, if you get into the social media space, I think there's another huge opportunity there as well, leveraging all of that data and making best use of it.
So you mentioned all these types of different datas. Do you have an insight to how the data from the different mediums and formats can be collected and codified and analyzed? So say you're for instance within video, search, mobile, social, web, is there specifically say social then? How do you actually codify and analyze the data from that?
Right. So that's another challenge. So you really need to, again, it depends on the source of your data. So you need to plan that as you're rolling out your sort of social media campaigns. You have to have the appropriate tracking put in. So if you're doing, say, Facebook campaigns, you need to track your ads across Facebook. You also need to find ways to identify potential customers or existing customers on the website so that you can associate what they're saying back to a particular profile, for example, particular products. So again, it really depends on the medium itself. There's people who are much more expert at me in finding ways to track, say, web campaigns or social media campaigns. But the beauty of the web is that it's all trackable. And I think if you actively communicate to your customer why you're tracking, what you're tracking, and explaining to them how you're going to use that data, I think that the issue of, well, I don't want to be tracked across the web, that kind of falls by the wayside as long as they're seeing a potential benefit.
So, for example, if a company has limited resources, then which mediums would you think provides the biggest bang for your buck?
Yeah, it's again like I was saying before. It's really around what data you have access to. So I naturally lean more towards internal data. What do you have first? Like, what are your customers saying? Because I focus primarily on retention. But it really depends on where you are in your stage. Like if you're a large company, you have the luxury of having those data sources. Maybe if you're a startup, you don't have that luxury. So you can get like lots of free sources, like leverage some of Google's tools or leverage some of the tools that are out there on the web to look at what your competitors' websites, like where's their traffic coming from, where, you know, who's placing ads on those websites, how are people interacting with various ads, look at particular microsites, blogs, things like that that are within the realm of what you're working on, and try to understand what people are saying, potential customers are saying, and basically use some of these free sources of data to, you know, build up your knowledge of who your potential customers are, who do you want to target, and how should you best target them.
And lastly, how can companies handle the integration of the various new sources of data with the existing data?
Yeah, I think having a team or having people, or even, you know, if you're a one-man startup, having the capability of integrating this data is going to be critical, because you don't want to really focus on one source of data. Customers vary in their approaches. There's still a whole group of customers that when they have an issue, they would prefer to call you directly. Others now have migrated and don't want to speak to you ever. They would like to just send you an email or go onto Facebook and blast you because they're angry with you. So you have to find ways, and that I think still needs to be fully sorted out. Is there a way to take an existing customer that you can identify and then track them across the web, like through social media, through Twitter, through mobile? You know, is that possible? I think there are ways. I think as the technology gets more advanced, there's ways to do that cleanly, and so you can begin understanding all of the customer interactions, how they are interacting with your product, what their thoughts are about your product and or services, and how can you leverage that data to really speak to your customers, ideally on a one-to-one basis, address their needs, address their concerns, and make sure that your company, the expectations that you're setting in your marketing and your communications with your customers are truly in line with the products and services that you're providing. That's really the way to retain customers. Is, you know, if you're telling them one thing and delivering another, you're not going to be successful. You really need to make sure that you're setting expectations, and customers understand that. They understand that, you know, for a $1 a month subscription, you may not be getting the full-blown customer service that you would be with a $100 a month subscription. But they need to understand that, hey, you're buying the $1 service, and this is what you get with it. So be clear, and generally that's the real way to retain customers, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much for your insight. That's very valuable. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.